Red Hat team, who works as a prime engineer at Red Hat Bangalore on the Compose project. And yeah, on today's session, he will be taking us through the journey of getting started and familiar with Compose on how we can use Compose in our day-to-day activities for the tasks we need. Just as a brief introduction about Compose, Compose is a manifest conversion tool to convert Docker file to native Kubernetes manifests. And to talk more about the Compose, we have the specialist with her. So, Suraj, stage is all yours.
Okay. Thank you, Arush. I'll share my screen for the slides.
Yeah.
Uh, can you guys see my screen? Yes. Cool. Cool. Thank you. So yeah. So yeah. Here are the slides. Compose. So hi guys. First of all, thanks Arush for this opportunity to talk at Kubernetes. Uh, about me, I work at Red Hat. I contribute to this Kcompose, libcompose, and the Catch project. In the free time, I tinker around Kubernetes, OpenShift, and the Amazon Alexa. Yeah. Uh, if you if you want to find me on IRC, I'm with the S Narwade on Twitter, red underscore Suraj. Yeah. So yeah, nowadays everyone wants to containerize their application. Like everyone, like Docker, Kubernetes is like buzzwords. Everyone wants it. But as you see, in a typical any startup, some guy went to any conference and he heard the term Docker and he just went to his office and say, yeah, let's do it. Let's containerize the all applications. But for that thing, the very first thing you have to do is learn Docker, right? Like Docker with a star, like now called as Moby. So you have to learn Docker. After Docker, what you do? Docker run -p some port and your PHP application, for example. But yeah, you're not happy because you have like more than one service right now. So what you'll do Docker run db MySQL and connect it to your PHP. But it will be bit tedious, right? Like if there are like what if there are more than two services? Uh, you will not do like every time Docker run this, Docker run that. So enter Docker Compose. uh, Enter Docker Compose. So Docker Compose gives us power to define all services within a single YAML file. As you can see, the version, the service under services, you can mention two services, DB and web. You can mention image, environment variables, ports, volume, everything which is required under Docker Compose file. And with the single Docker Compose up, your application is set. Your developer is happy, right? Like his application is up and ready. But now what? Like your application is running on dev machine, but what next? Like as you can see, Docker Compose is very good for development, but not for the production. One cannot simply just Docker run or Docker Compose up in the production, right? It's not so great for production. So what we need some kind of container orchestration engine like Kubernetes or OpenShift, Docker Swarm or Mesos. But practically what we need is a production ready container orchestration, which is Kubernetes. But why Kubernetes we do? Because as part of Kubernetes, everyone is familiar with Kubernetes, but still Kubernetes is robust. It came from the Google's experience, production experience with the Borg, and it has a very huge community around it, and the large companies like Most of the companies are using it in production though. uh, Last year we heard like Pokemon Go, they're running their backend production on the Kubernetes. But yeah, Kubernetes is great for the production, but what are the problems, what are the challenges for the developers? There's the huge learning curve for the developers. They have to learn pods, services, deployment, replica sets, everything they have to learn. So do you remember the Compose like we discussed earlier? Like a simple single YAML file which deploys all the services. So where is that investment of time? We invested the time on the learning the Docker and Docker Compose. So we don't want to waste that knowledge, right? So as you can see on the screen, like on the left hand side, here's a Docker Compose file. It's like 10 lines of Docker Compose file, and here are the like 100 line of Kubernetes YAML. It's a bit tedious to write this, right? So enter Kcompose. So I'm one of the developer for the Compose at Red Hat. So last year we started with thinking of this, and we joined Bitnami with this project. So Compose, like what Compose does, it takes your Docker Compose file and onboard you on the Kubernetes on the very first day. So here's the why for Compose. So it will transition your developer from the Docker Compose to the Kubernetes very successfully. Uh, though Docker Compose was not made for the Kubernetes, so there will not be 100% transmission, but it will get you 95% of the way there. And the defaults generated by Compose will be the base or the POC thing for your use case. So one of the main use case for the Kcompose might be the Kubernetes development for the developers, right? So like at the end, the application is gonna be containerized, it's gonna be deployed on Kubernetes. So then why not Kubernetes native development, right? So yeah, that kind of things. So after this, I'll show you a demo of the Kcompose. So before that, I want to tell you the some of the cool feature we have added with the Compose. So now we have Docker Compose version 3 support for the Compose, as well as like what we used to do in Docker Compose. Now we have a build and push support as well. We support various controllers like daemon set, replication controllers, and all. We have YAML and JSON support as well, and we support OpenShift too. Uh, for the integration parts, so we also working with the integration with the Fabricate Maven plugin. It's one of the cool project for the Java developers. Like it help Java developers to get started with Kubernetes in very simple way. Then at Red Hat, we also ship Compose with the Red Hat Dev Suite, which is a very popular platform for the developers. And you can see more examples on the Kompose.io/integrations. Uh, and recently, we achieved some milestones, great achievements we had. Like from since last 1 year, Compose was in a Kubernetes incubator, and now we are part of Kubernetes organization. And we also got a milestone release of like 1.0. How cool is that? And roadmap for the Compose we have, like we are continuously trying to support every possible key in Docker Compose, so that developer gets a very good experience with Kubernetes. And also we are trying to improve the UX part as well. So let's quickly move to the demo. For that, I have to stop sharing the slides and I'll move to my terminal. Where is that? Uh, Can you guys see my terminal? Are you able to see my terminal?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Right.
So I'll start with a very basic example, which is counter example. Okay. So as you can see, it's a very simple example with the one counter image, which has ports, which has some label, Redis image with a port. So you can see here, like we have one this label compose.service.type. So as you guys know, there are like three types of services in the Kubernetes: node, port, load balancer, and cluster IP. But Docker Compose don't have like such kind of things. So we did some hack with the labels to achieve the services in the Compose. So to get started with this, a very simple thing is compose convert std out. Boom. You can see the Kubernetes artifacts on the fly. Compose generates, like you can see, service, then deployment, again deployment. Like for the both services, we created this thing. Not only on the std out, but if I do compose convert, it will generate all the YAML files which is required. As you can see, Redis service file, the web deployment file, which you can directly take and deploy on the Kubernetes. Okay, so along with the Kubernetes, we also support OpenShift. So for OpenShift, we just have to do hyphen hyphen provider and OpenShift, and your OpenShift artifacts are ready as like deployment config, image stream, service, everything you want. The so last KubeCon, my team lead went to KubeCon and he noticed some point that some of the ops guys, they don't love YAML, right? They just love JSON files. So we have also added the option for the JSON as well. Like just give -j and you get a JSON file, right? As simple as that. You can get a JSON file. Cool. So let's say you want a daemon set as a controller. So you can see we have a flag for the controller as well. So where you can set the output controller, whether it is deployment, daemon set, or replication controller. Let's try this thing. F1 controller, replication controller. And yes, we get replication controller as well here. Cool. So now we see like we can generate artifacts, but along with that, what else we can do, right? So for that purpose, I'm running a mini local mini shift, uh, small VM, which is like single node Kubernetes cluster. So I'll simply do compose up. As you can see, my compose, it will take my docker compose file, convert it into Kubernetes artifact, and it will simply deploy to Kubernetes. kubectl get pods, and see my pods are running web as well as Redis. So let's try to access this. kubectl get service. Yes, let's get the service IP, service web. Yes, this is my IP of the service. If I try to curl the IP, yes, you can see output. Yeah, and like let's say I have to delete all this, just do compose down, all artifacts are deleted. As simple as that. So the same application, you can see the counter application. Now I will demonstrate the build and push part, a very awesome feature of the Compose. So a typical Python developer has this kind of file structure in his file. He has a Python file, he has a Docker file, he has a Docker Compose file, and he has his requirement.txt, right? So it's the same Python file, a Flask application, which has a Redis increment, and on the continuous setting, it will give is this web page. It has this Docker file, which has a base Python application and all, and it has this Docker Compose file, which contains this build key. So build key tells Docker Compose to build the source code and push it. So let's try this. When I do compose up, as you can see the logs. First log is build key detected, attempting to build and push image. Then compose will build the image with the name docker.io slash Suraj Narwade slash count, and then it will push that image to the Docker hub on my account, and then my cluster will pull that image from the Docker hub and deploy it. kubectl get pods. Boom, my pods are running. Minishift, OpenShift service. So you guys might be wondering what is this. So to get a service IP, some of you might be familiar with Minikube. Like in Minikube, what we do? Minikube service web has same thing. Minishift, OpenShift service web. And if we curl this IP, the same thing we get, the same demo. And again for down, just do compose down. Cool. Uh, Now we'll see the next example. So this is very famous guest book example from the Kubernetes documentation itself. It has three services: front end, Redis master, and the Redis slave. Now this time we'll try to deploy this on a OpenShift. Let's try this. Compose up hyphen provider OpenShift. As you can see, three services are created, deployment configs, and the respective image streams are created. Image streams are the OpenShift specific artifacts. So for OpenShift, I'll do minishift console, and I'll stop sharing the screen, and I'll again share my browser to show you the OpenShift console. So yeah, yeah. So this is my OpenShift console. Since OpenShift is yet another Kubernetes, or you can say a Kubernetes distribution. So here are my all pods are in the OpenShift as well. All three pods are running. To check the output, I'll simply go to service, front end, just create a route, and yeah, here's my application. My guestbook application is ready. As simple as that. Cool. Again, back to terminal. So again, compose down to simply change the output. And for the compose, we have like very awesome help menu as also provided. Like we have the build branch, build repo, flags provided, and one more cool thing, like as we can mention the replicas flag in the replica key in the Docker Compose v3, but in the Docker Compose v2 we didn't have the replicas flag, but still we can add the replicas here. Let's say two replicas we added, and see, we have two replicas for the each front end, Redis, again Redis slaves. Awesome. So we can check the scalability of the app as well. Awesome. So for the volume things, we can mention with the hyphen hyphen volume flag whether you want mtdr volume or the persistent volume claims, everything you want. Uh, I have covered pretty much of everything with the Compose. If you guys have any questions, I'm ready to take questions.
Suraj, so one question.
Yes.
Yeah, in the latest DockerCon announcement, and Docker announced
Yeah.
as an alternative orchestration available natively beside Swarm. And
Yeah.
with that, they will be adding like the native Docker Compose to Kubernetes feature to Docker itself. So, how you see Compose, you know, playing in such a scenario when Docker itself is now coming with an inbuilt Docker Compose to Kubernetes uh, uh, feature, and how Compose can uh, help me create a difference. How Compose is any different from that, or
Yeah.
if now I already have that feature, why I will use Compose?
Yeah. Exactly. So, see, after the DockerCon announcement, we were really surprised with the Docker announcement. But yeah, so we asked them on Twitter like how they are implementing the stuff and all. So as per the information we got, it's not open source yet, and it's there for the only it's there only for the Mac, and yeah, only for the Mac and the Enterprise Edition as of now. And they are using the same thing using CRDs, which is a custom resource definition. And I think the problem which Compose is facing, the similar problems might be there in custom resource definition. But first thing, Compose is open source. It's there for all of the three platforms, the Linux, Mac, and Windows. And since we are trying to get the more support for the upper versions as well, 3.1, 3.5, we are trying to get it. I don't think it's like competitor kind of thing. So it's a still an enterprise, right? So Compose, it's not directly focused to the ops person, but it's moreover focused to the developers as well. Like since since we are starting the era of Kubernetes native development as well, so I think Compose will be useful for that as well. And I don't know more about the CRD stuff. It will be like clear. It there will be the clear idea when the main their stuff will be in picture.
Okay, great.
Arush, yeah,
Yes. Uh, Thank you for the great explanation. Just one follow-up question. Uh,
okay,
so, how or from where you would recommend someone who's trying to get involved with the Compose project as a contributor, um, not just as a user, but who is willing to get involved with the project as a contributor? How and where can one start?
yeah,
What would
yeah, yeah.
be the point?
Let me share my screen again. Okay, so can you? So yeah, so we have a channel on the Kubernetes Slack with the hash compose. We have our GitHub like on Kubernetes/compose, and we have pretty cool website Kompose.io. So if you have any doubts regarding Compose, like get on the Slack, talk to us. We are happy to help you, or try the Compose. If you have any issue, just file it on GitHub. Uh, yeah, file it on GitHub only. We'll talk to you. And if you go to Compose Kubernetes, so here is the as contributing guidelines provided. Like first thing you have to do is sign a CLA and just get started with it. Send a patch. Our whole team is very active for the review and all stuff. Yeah, that's it pretty much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was very good. I actually don't have a question, more like a feedback. We used several times the tool, and I still see that this is probably not going to be solving exactly all the problems, but it's a very good start. It can cover like 80-90% of use cases, and then you
Yeah,
can pretty much jump onto Kubernetes. Uh,
yeah,
with regards to the announcement of Docker, I think it's the same thing. It's still not very clear how it's going to be used. I personally don't want to have any compose files sitting around. I want to use only Kubernetes manifest files. And with their approach, you will be still kind of have to use compose files, sort of say. And with the
yeah,
with K, it's kind of a path to migration to Kubernetes.
yeah. Mm. So one thing I want to share. There is kind of a leaky abstraction with the Docker Compose. So my team came up with this new project. Uh, you should definitely see this. I'm pasting the link on the chat. Uh, One sec. So here's the link, catchproject.org. So due to this leaky abstraction of Docker Compose, like one cannot be like 101% be onboarded on the Kubernetes, but we are trying to solve this problem with this nice tool Catch project. Just have a look. So last week I was talking with Arush, like one of the session will be taking on Compose, and other will be happy to take on a Catch. So the cache covers all of the leaky abstractions, and you can have a, it's kind of a same YAML file, but you can have a power to define all the keys which are there in Kubernetes as well.
Great, Suraj, and yeah, all and every request are welcome. So yep,
Cool.
just let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So if we don't have any more questions, we can go ahead and stop the recording.
Any more questions? I'm happy to help out.
Similar to
So
Catch, but in JSON. Focus on it.
yeah, so before starting the, somehow I'm getting echo. Okay,
Sorry.
so before before starting the Catch project, we we also did some research with the KSONet and JSONnet, libJSONnet and all. But I think that libJSONnet, KSONnet things, they are not moreover like developer friendly. It's like uh, it's kind of to make some library kind of stuff or the some heavy duty stuff, but it's not a developer friendly, as at least I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I I'll get through. Okay, so that's like first a example file, and I was like, this looks tough. Yeah, that was like my first reaction after going through Kiss on it. So yeah, definitely, it's not a like very newbie friendly tool to
Yeah.
start with.
So at Red Hat, we are a part of a developer tools team. So we are majorly focusing on the developers to get onboarded with Kubernetes OpenShift from the day one. So we are trying to solve that problem majorly with the tools like Compose, Stage, and all.
Great. So, any more questions? Or
I had questions for the
anything?
exam, but I think we'll have time after that, right?
Sorry?